King Trikk here, Nordic Confederacy. I'm going to be talking about a lot of issues today from my footstool in Montana. And I came across something today through a friend of mine. It's called a Paqui. I don't know if I'm saying this right. One Chip Challenge 2022. Your king don't feel much spice. I like spicy food. I like things spicy in general. So I'm going to open this thing up and see what we got here. I don't know if this is some kind of stunt that my buddy's pulling on me. I don't know. But I'm adventurous. So let me open this thing up. The Paqui One Chip Challenge. And then we'll get on to some serious subject matter. King Trikk style. So here we go. Wow, man. Kind of cool marketing. Paqui One Chip Challenge. Real peppers, real heat. I'm going to open this up. What do we got in here? That looks just like a Dorito chip. Blue. Whoa, baby. There's no joke, Jack. Wow. Wow, baby. Have you guys done this? This is heavy. This is no joke. So you want to cleanse yourself out? The Paqui One Chip Challenge. And I got a whole chip here. And I ain't no fool. Any more of this? It's emergency room. So let me say this. I like my spicy food. This Paqui One Chip Challenge, I do not recommend this for the public. Your king can take it, but this will burn your tongue off. So, Paqui One Chip Challenge, and I just nibbled. Man, I bet this company gets sued. That's no joke, Jack. And I know my hot food. I love hot spices, so. Anyways, it gets me ready for this video. This is where we're going today. And I'm glad because this gets me ready. I'm going to start a reading from New Testament. Sea Island Creole, Book of Revelation. Chapter 12, verse 13. When the dragon see that they done chunk them down into the wall, start for run out of the woman, well ben the boy child. Revelation 12, verse 13. I love language. They throw the devil out of heaven. When the Sea Island Creole, the Almighty chunk. When the dragon see that they done chunk them down out of heaven. He chunk them down. So, I'm going to tell you guys again. This Paqui, this is good. I love it. My subjects should not eat this. This thing will rock your world.
Finish the chip.
I will not finish that chip. So, we're going to go into some teaching today. Now we're getting serious. Your king, King Trikk, is also a saint, but he's a sabonim in the Korean language. He's a father teacher, okay? And he's going to talk about Abraham Lincoln. By the way, don't eat this chip, you people. I'm doing a public service. Never eat this chip, okay? So here we are, okay? Excuse me, that chip is empty. That chip. Oh, wow, that chip. Okay, I'm going to talk about Lincoln because my producer wanted to know what my beef with Abe Lincoln was. I'm going to cite two books that I've talked about in the past. The Real Lincoln by Thomas D. Lorenzo. Jason Lewis talked about this guy. And I'm going to give a quote from an Ebony magazine editor Lerone Bennett on page 12. Talked about how Lincoln was upholding the equality principle of the Declaration. Lerone Bennett disagrees with the standard interpretation. On at least 14 occasions between 1854 and 1860, Bennett writes, Lincoln said unambiguously that he believed the Negro race was inferior to the white race. Anyone who researches Lincoln, the quote after quote on who Lincoln, and in fact, the Emancipation Proclamation was a war measure. And I've mentioned that in the past because I want Lincoln taken off of the South Dakota, with Washington and Jefferson and what am I thinking of? This chip is killing me. We want Lincoln down, and we want Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull up. Lincoln comes down, and we want Sitting Bull up, because Lincoln was a racist. This chip, by the way, you guys, don't ever eat this chip. This chip is killing me. So, Mount Rushmore, we want Lincoln down. Lincoln's going down. People need to know about the real Lincoln DiLorenzo right here. I'm going to get to a more controversial book. You ready? This book by Lachlan Seabrook, Lincoln's War. Now, this is where D'Souza gets it wrong. Paqui, one chip challenge. Don't do it, guys. Don't ever eat this chip. Okay, the one chip challenge. No good. Lincoln's War. Listen to this, you doomcops, because D'Souza gets this wrong. In essence, the Confederacy's Democratic president, Jefferson Davis, was a conservative with libertarian leanings. The Union's Republic president, Abraham Lincoln, was a liberal with socialistic leanings. This is why in the mid-1800s, the conservative wing of the Democratic Party was known as the States' Rights Party. It is why Lincoln idolized the radical leaders of the European Socialist Revolution of 1848. All these letters going back and forth with the European Socialists, with Marx and all these guys, and it is why the radical left members of the Republican Party agreed with the socialists and communists that the American Civil War was a revolutionary movement. Marx, a radical revolution, Thaddeus Stevens, and a social revolution, James A. Garfield. Because Lincoln was an inheritor of the clay system, the Whigs, going back to Hamilton, centralization. These titles and these names do get switched in the American political history. It's not hard for people to realize there's other factors based on city culture, the manufacturing realities, the agrarian realities, which are always more conservative. This is a book you doomcosts need to read called Lincoln's War. The real cause, the real winner, the real loser. And Lincoln even wanted to get, this is why I have my scarf with this chip. This chip that's a chip, wow. These books will clear your minds on these issues and let people know who Lincoln really was. He wasn't for liberty, and he wasn't even for a really egalitarian ethic as far as racially. So he was a tyrant. It was a real mixed bag, some real conflicting concepts, and we'll continue to unpack that because as your father teacher, King Trikk, I have to unpack these issues. So anyways, I got a big beef with Lincoln, and I'm going to continue to rip on Lincoln, but I need to get more material today. The next subject I want to talk about is some hadiths from, don't you guys like Harper, the head of the KGBT? Right? Harper, awesome person. And we're going to talk about some hadiths from the work of Bill Warner. And hadiths, several categories here on jihad, on women, slaves, art, but we're going to hit ones on sex, rules about sex. Fascinating stuff. Muhammad, if before having sex with his wife, a man says, "In the name of Allah, shield us from Satan and protect the offspring from our union from Satan," Then it is ordained that child should be conceived. Satan will be powerless to harm that child. So, pretty interesting. Another one. Sulam, Abu Talha's wife, went to Muhammad and asked, Muhammad, obviously Allah does not shrink from speaking the truth to you. Must a woman bathe after having a wet dream? Muhammad answered, yes, if she had a discharge. That's pretty good advice, right? Take a shower. Muhammad, when a man encompassed by a woman and has sex with her, a ritual bath is necessary. I don't know, I guess a bath and shower. I don't know what a ritual bath is. We'll look into that. Muhammad, there are 5 things that prophets have in common. Circumcision, shaved pubic hair. Didn't know that. Plucked armpits, a closely trimmed mustache, and trimmed fingernails. Gotta be a prophet, I guess, in Islam. Far out, man. I love this stuff. Okay, several of us have become sexually frustrated while in jihad with no women. We asked Muhammad whether we should castrate ourselves. He forbids us from that action, but he did give us permission to take a temporary wife, which he could have simply given by giving a woman a garment. Okay, so you can have temporary wives if you're jihading. So I guess you can like get a slave, kidnap, you know, you're killing people and you're in war, and there's a lot of intensity, hormones, and rage, and everything that goes on with battle. And so you get a temporary wife. Oh, okay. Rape a kafir or female captive is jihad. Receiving female slaves as shares of spoils of war, we would practice coitus interruptus with them to avoid unwanted pregnancy. We asked Muhammad his opinion, and he asked us 3 times, do you really remove yourself? He then said, no soul that is preordained to exist will be created. He says, just don't pull out. Muhammad's advice here is don't pull out. Laws about sex. Muhammad ordered an unmarried man exiled for a year, and then he lashed out 100 times for having illegal sexual intercourse. So I guess my question is, what is legal or illegal sexual intercourse in Muhammad's realm? Sex slaves are okay. You can have 4 wives. He was married to Aisha when she was, I guess, 6 and doing her when she was 9. No judgment here. You know, I'm just reporting. This is a good one. Muhammad, it is all right if a man enters his wife from behind or from on top, but he should enter the vagina. A kafir woman could be used for sex even if she was married and her husband was present. There's one of these that I guess if you do that, the child comes out with squinty eyes. I mean, the Mongol war hump from behind means squinty eyes. I don't know. You know, I want to say something about Muhammad and studying him. This guy was an awesome warlord. If you want to study, I guess his real name too was Kuthum, because Muhammad is a title like praised one. So you could call King Trikk Muhammad a praised one if you praise me. I mean, if you decide to. But his real name was Kuthum. But this dude was an awesome warlord and economic warfare and like total civilizational war. So if you like study him from the perspective of like what it means to be like an awesome warlord, man, this is a guy to study, man. I mean, just incredible. And the rules of abrogation and taqiyya, sacred deception, and saying one thing based on what happened in Medina versus Mecca. You know, war is deception, a lot of, you know, commanders will say. Unbelievable guy to study. I'd recommend Bill Warner's books, the Hadith, to study this guy, Kuthum, his title, Muhammad. So, fascinating study. I'll continue to read Hadiths. I love this stuff. Got numerous books by this guy, Bill Warner. Okay, the last subject I want to, hey, did I guys mention, I want to show you guys this. I am not kidding you. This Paqui, this 1-chip challenge, and I didn't launch into this like, you know, just like a huge bite, because I have such tolerance for spicy foods, but I want you guys to see the size of this chip. I am not kidding you. I nibbled this. Now let me tell you what, I am not kidding. You guys eat this whole chip right here, some of you are going to the hospital. And I am not kidding you. I love it, but I'll take it in small bites. This chip will kill you. I am not kidding you, man. So, it's a good joke. Funny, you're sweating. You look at me sweating. It's great stuff, man. Anyways, let me get a little drink here. And I'm going to get back to my favorite subject. Oh, everyone thinks I like talking about Islam and Muhammad or a civil war and all the lies we've been told. My favorite subject is Roman Catholicism. I love talking about Catholicism. It's great stuff, man. because I was raised in this system in my family. And I was also one of those kids who was like, well, why do you do that? Or what does that mean? And I want to read a couple quotes and get into some of this. The two greatest hoaxes ever perpetrated on the world, at least the Western world, is that the Pope is a representative of Jesus Christ on earth, and that Mary is the source of all spiritual graces. This guy says this. It's two horrific lies right out of the pit of hell. So he says it's pagan goddess worship dressed up in Roman Catholic religious fantasy. So I want to read some of this information because it fascinates me. And it's Roman Catholic dogma, the idolatry of Mary, the Immaculate Conception, virgin birth, right? Make your own opinions up. Pretty fascinating stuff. Sinlessness, perpetual virginity, assumption into heaven, the Queen of Heaven, co-redeemer with Jesus. There's a scripture that Mary celebrated God as her Savior. So if you celebrate someone as your Savior, you're basically saying, I need a Savior, I'm a sinner. So you're not sinless, right? So it don't make sense to me. And that's in the Bible. However you look at that, but what do the Roman Catholics believe? Okay, so this guy's saying that the Roman Catholic Church developed a goddess system. Okay, Immaculate Conception, born without sin, Pius IX, 1854. I read that in the Bible. And I think Protestants and everyone believes on that. So that maybe is not that big. But perpetual virginity, Joseph, poor dude, right? But, it just seems crazy. You're living with this woman, she has kids. I think Joseph was getting some chicky bow wow. So this all came about too in like the 1850s by Pius IX. And then the Assumption, 1950, they decided she ascended into heaven and emptied purgatory. Now, I've read the Bible from a lot of versions. I study this stuff. I've never read this. And all the apostles are weeping and kissing her feet when she died. Okay? I've never read any of this. Okay, the Mother of God, Queen of Heaven. They do whatever she asks. I haven't read any of that in the Bible. Okay, this is funny too because I've done a lot of study on this. The apparitions. Appears to lowly people, the Marian apparitions at Fatima. In 1917, these crazy little girl nuns having these and it's significant because this actually has affected some of our foreign policy going into Vietnam and into who is that goofy little bishop boy Spellman in the 60s, and how the Catholic hierarchy, the Jesuits, and how this affects diplomacy based off these apparitions. I don't know, maybe they're on mushrooms that day. Who knows, man? But it tells you this stuff is just not wackadoo, right? It's taken seriously. The mediatrix makes me think about like Ilsa Strix with Andy Wachowski, the dominatrix, right? Mediatrix, Salvation Grace, Mother of Grace, 1090, Prayers of the Rosary come on 1090. Are they bored and they just 1,000 years later decide to do something? That's like they need a garden or something, right? So the co-redemptrix is like this unofficial reality they decide on 1,000 years later. This was the Roman Catholic system. I think all religion has done this because they get bored and they don't have anything to do. They don't really have like Queen Cannon in Southside Chicago would say, that calling's American Express. You know what I mean? Like, how about hiking? You can take up hiking. So all this stuff, they just add all this stuff to the Bible. It's just really strange, weird stuff. And I'm not even going to get into today all the strange stuff about the Pope and the Vatican. I got tons of notes on this stuff, and it's just fascinating to me to go through it. And here's one. I will go into a little bit of this. You guys got to hear this. About this, the pageant of the performance out of a priest. I'll go through this quick. It's just wackadoodle, man. The priest makes the sign of the cross 16 times. This is during a mass. Turns to the congregation 6 times. Lifts eyes to heaven 11 times. Kisses the altar 8 times. Folds his hand 4 times. Strikes his breast 10 times. Bows his head 21 times. Genuflects 8 times. Bows his shoulders 7 times. Bless the altar with the sign of the cross 30 times. Lays his hand flat on the altar 29 times. Who can remember this? They have to do this. Pray secretly 11 times. Pray aloud 13 times. Cover and uncover the chalice 10 times. And this pleases God? Who would serve a God like this? This is cuckoo land, man. Voltaire, I think I mentioned in previous videos, Voltaire, well, I'm not a fan of Voltaire, called it the grand opera of the poor. A piece of bread, sheer idolatry, a fetish. I call it the Yucca crisis. A piece of bread in a box is Jesus. It's bread in a box. I love this stuff, man. I mean, raised Catholic and then to start studying this stuff and looking into this. I have family members who believe this stuff, man. And I'm the crazy one. They think I'm the crazy, and they believe this garbage. This is wicked. And we believe this Pope in the Vatican and three-quarters of this country in the East Coast institutions, Jesuit influenced institutions, believe these wackadoodles. Hey man, the Constitution, and none of them want the Constitution and go after the Constitution and get out because freedom of religion, but they're the ones dictating everything, so there's no freedom of religion. Do you see how this works? See, that's why you need King Trikk of the Nordic Confederacy. Hey man, this Pope, the Pope, he couldn't handle one nibble off this thing. Your king bit into this thing. This thing is no joke, Jack. The Paqui. This is good stuff, man. I can tell you this too. When Marion the Barbarian, my mom was dying, I call her Marion the Barbarian. You guys gotta hear this story. She was raised Catholic. And my family, Bear Chief, my biological propagator, we call him Bear Chief. He's nailing Marion, my mom's second husband, and back in the car. That's how I came into being. Conceived in iniquity, King David. I was conceived in iniquity. I own it proudly. So Bear Chief's nailing Marion in the back of the car. She's raised Catholic, right? First husband leaves. They want to call my half brothers and sisters bastard. I'm like, call me a bastard, right? It screws up her psyche. She's doing something so awful, right? The dude leaves. Catholic churches and all this stuff. So I'm like, I'm taking care of Marion the Barbarian when she's dying. We're talking about all these issues. We have great conversations. And I'm like, well, they kind of screwed your brain up because, the first husband leaves and you hook up with Bear Chief and, I'm the bastard, right? I like it, but they're playing with her mind, and she's unclean, she's bad, all these things. She's human, right? I said, you know what your problem was, Marion? Because she goes, after I divorced your dad, I was never with another man. I said, Marion? I said, because you're frigid. I said, this is my mom. She goes, I am not frigid. I said, you're a frigid woman because that Catholic stuff messed your brain up. That whole Mary was always a virgin, all that crap. And she goes, I am not frigid. I said, you were frigid. I said, you know what you needed, Marion? My mom. I love my mom. Took care of her when she was dying. And she says, what did I need? I said, you needed a Chaka Zulu warrior with a member the size of this can. And my mom looks at me and she goes, I would never. And I said, that is your problem because you're being a self-righteous bitch. Now, that sounds like hardcore ministry to your mama. But when it's all said and done, she got my point on this. That this Catholic thing really screwed her brain up. That her first husband leaves her. She hooks up with Bear Chief. And Bear Chief had a lot of problems, believe me. He's kind of a barbarian. But the bottom line is she goes, oh, I'm so awful. My first husband, I've been married twice. And I'm getting it on with Bear Chief, and I'm bringing this monster in the world, King Trikk of the Nordic Confederacy. These things happen in life. God is forgiving. God is loving. You know what I'm saying? I gotta tell you guys, man, this chip, don't ever eat this chip. Ever! This Paqui, I'll show you this cover again. You guys need to see this thing. The one chip challenge, avoid this damn chip. Avoid it. So the moral of the story is, all you recovering Catholicos out there, take all that nonsense. I'm not telling you to hook up with Chaka Zulu warriors. Okay, I'm not saying, if you want to do it, free will, right? Who am I, the sex police? I hang out with Harper, right? I'm not saying do that. I'm saying maybe forgive yourself, you know what I mean? And get on with your life and realize that the Great Lake Superior Buddha, right? My higher power is merciful. That's all King Trikk has to say. A little forgiveness, a little love. See how in Creole? have mercy upon the little children. Have mercy upon the little children. The Podfather says, Podfather Seattle and Creole, he's going to have the Negro orphanage. We're going to have mercy. He says it to me all the time. Have some mercy on yourself. Live your life.